Alright,
Your WavyOcho gonna react to Suicide. See the y'all remember Suicide, the character when he was in like TNA? Suicide was mad people, bro. I heard it was like Christopher Daniels was on that Suicide costume. Kazarian, he was on the Suicide costume. You know, TJ Perkins, he was on the Suicide costume, but later turned Manic. So yeah.
the Hawk. Who remembers that time when TNA took a fictional video game character and then
Yeah, I remember that.
turned it into a real wrestler on TV? And his name was... well, I can't actually say his name for this entire video, so this is going to be fun. YouTube has automatically been restricting videos which mention this word, so I can't. That's why the word tope has become such a common term, believe it or not. It sounds ridiculous, but it's true. Anyway, the console TNA video game told us the story of a masked man who was beaten badly and ditched in Mexico.
Why would TNA name that in the first place, though? What the fuck?
And now he has to fight his way back up the TNA roster. The character was voiced by Low Key, and this wrestler was pretty much a mascot for the video game. It wasn't the worst idea ever. Shame about the name though. When you think about it, it's kind of a genius marketing strategy for the video game having its main character on the TV show and creating a brand out of it. But I guess that's why the Hawk isn't a businessman. Now before we get into this story, I just want to be clear, I don't think this was actually bad, but it was poorly handled and could have been much better. But if you want to make the Hawk talk like NX Gamer, sign up on Patreon today, it's going to make you spray. Now the Masked Man made his in-ring debut on pay-per-view at Final Resolution 2008. The lights went out, some cheesy music played, and out he flew on a rope into the ring and took out the machine guns. It's a pretty memorable debut. The original wrestler was portrayed by Frankie Kazarian, but just a few weeks into playing the character, Kazarian got an injury and the masked character was dropped from TV before he'd even had a match. You'd think
Botch that sunset flip power bomb.
Low key, he did after all do the voice for the character on the video game.
Wow, this place is a piece of work. What's with the chickens? So anyway, here's the deal. This is a gauntlet match. When you win against one, another comes in to take his place.
I guess he was too busy in 2008, so that's an inconsistency straight away. After disappearing, he randomly made his in-ring debut at Destination X 2009, which was about 4 months after he had last been seen with Kazarian portraying him. This was now 6 months after the video game's release, and TNA had missed the marketing boat. They were no longer geniuses. Anyway, his debut match was Ultimate X. He was now being portrayed by Christopher Daniels. The actual match performance was a massive disappointment, except the finish. He jumped off the structure onto the cables, knocking everybody else down and capturing the...
Yep, that was Christopher Daniels, bro. He did it before. His match against LAX.
X Division title on the character's debut match. Things did continue much the same. He was a fighting champion, but despite all the allure and intrigue around the character, he just wasn't that exciting in the ring. I was waiting for him to do something crazy, and then that finally happened at Lockdown when he hit a cage dive out to the ramp. Things did seem to improve around this time when he was paired up with the returning Amazing Red, and they seemed like an exciting potential tag team. This was 2 guys who hadn't had much telly time, and it gave the show a fresh feeling. At this time, his first storyline started up when the Motor City Machine Guns were accusing Christopher Daniels of being the Masked Man. They pointed out that the two are similar.
I mean, he was.
Because they both have the same unmistakable ass, they both move the same way, and the crowd chant Daniels whenever they see the masked moron. Daniels denied it. Other members of the roster kept accusing Daniels too, but I'm not sure why any of them cared. Well, it turned out that Daniels was telling the truth. The X Division tried to unmask him when Christopher Daniels made the save for him. In reality, Kaz had just returned from injury, and you can tell it was Kaz from the moves that he did. This annoyed me. I wish they'd made more of an effort to give our masked hero a different moveset. Talking of his moveset, he had a horrible finisher, by the way. It was his first name, followed by the word solution. It just sounds wrong. Well,
That's a basic finish name, I ain't gonna lie.
I didn't think the move itself really suited the character, and it wasn't that good a move. Talking of his character, they pretty much took away his ziplining entrance, and instead the arena just went dark and he just appeared sat on a table doing a pose. I do understand why they probably stopped doing the zipping entrance. It was dangerous and controversial, but it was one of the best parts of his character. I do get it, it's just a shame. Kaz has said in interviews he wanted to completely recreate the moveset and make it different to Kaz's moveset. I just don't think it worked. They talk about the high-flying skills of the superhero, but Kaz doesn't really wrestle that style, he's more of a hybrid. Pretty quickly a massive flaw in this new wrestler became clear. On the video game his voice was done by Low-Ki. Now Low-Ki has a very distinct and unique voice, which was actually very suited to a mysterious superhero character. But the actual
Now I ain't gonna lie, Low-Ki was very underrated, bro. Low-Ki has some like OD kicks, bro. I ain't gonna lie, them kicks look like it hurt, bro. I ain't gonna lie. Them shits look like it hurt. I ain't gonna lie, bro. Low-Ki got some lethal kicks. Feel me?
fiction wrestler doesn't talk. Cat got his tongue? Well, at least...
Plus he got a mixed martial arts, like, he got that MMA background and all that, so he's gonna help him.
At the beginning, until there's a car crash interview of Mike Tenay where the masked wrestler actually does talk and he uses a voice changer.
Your pain just won't go away. Screaming voices driving you insane. It sounds like a very tormented and troubled soul.
I was in the darkness. I felt the pain. I was dead. I choose to see the light, the dark savior. Suicide does not represent the end. Suicide represents the beginning.
He's basically a depressed wrestler who talks slowly. With that incredible news, he lost the X Division title in the following episode of Impact. If he wasn't depressed before, he certainly is now. At least he dropped the belt to Homicide, two great names fighting in TNA right there. From this point on, the character started only appearing sporadically. In fact, he disappeared for months at a time. He reappeared on pay-per-view in an Asylum match. Guess he didn't qualify for a title rematch for some reason. Pope dropped him from the cage, which starts the next feud. It's a strange choice for a feud, especially given the Pope's rising star and fan attention at the time. Pope gets cheered and the TNA superhero gets booed. They continued to ruin each other's matches for a few weeks, but they were feuding over basically nothing. Pope says it was because his enemy was depressed and he doesn't like depressed people. The masked man was too depressed to respond, so instead they had a
Nigga say he don't like the depressed people. I'm dead, bro.
match. Pope beat him. Then they had a Falls Count Anywhere match on pay-per-view. Pope beat him. He just didn't have the charisma to go head-to-head with the Pope. And it's actually a really fun match too, but at this point the allure and the mystery of this superhero is gone. There's not that many superheroes who lose all the time and don't do anything interesting. When he does try to fly, it costs him the match. They have a third match in the series, which is also fun. The masked man finally wins one against the Pope, doing his finisher on a trash can. They continued fighting for a few weeks, with the Pope costing him an X Division title match. Something that has happened since the invention of the character is wrestlers stealing the outfit to trick other wrestlers, and Homicide became the first person to steal his outfit. You'd think our hero would care that somebody impersonated him, but no. Guess he's still scared of Homicide since losing the X Division title to him. Bound for Glory 2009 Ultimate X was possibly his best performance. If you're looking for high risk, this is the one.
Yeah.
He even almost died in this match. Daniels met him on top of the structure and they both fell to the mat with Taz saying check him. He had noticeable panic in his voice. He was a man of few words, but when he did choose to speak again, it turned out that he now had a completely different voice to the one he originally had in the last interview.
But the Dark Savior's trust comes at a much higher price.
He now sounded like he was on a truckload of steroids. 4 months after stealing his ring gear, Homicide and the masked person named after taking your own life had a match. This was happening because Homicide was threatening to reveal his identity. Nothing came of it. Irrelevant anyway, as at the start of 2010, Kazarian returned to TNA Telly as himself. The masked character was dropped. Kaz described this whole affair as the darkest period in his career. He hated wrestling under a mask and it had completely stopped his momentum when he was on the verge of breaking into the main event scene. He did not want to be an X Division wrestler either, let alone one under a mask. For some bizarre reason, TNA briefly put the character back on the program, only this time it was portrayed by Kiyoshi, a Japanese wrestler who really didn't do much of anything in TNA. But that didn't last long and soon our masked hero was gone again off telly. 2 years passed by and nobody really cared. But for some reason, TNA decided they must bring him back again in 2013. This time he was portrayed by wrestler TJ Perkins. This was probably the biggest push of the entire career of the wrestler. But don't get too excited, he was just being used to further someone else's career. He won a triple threat match to pick up the X Division title, but then Hogan's music hit as the Hawkster dragged some unknown man out to the ramp in his talons. Hogan revealed that this guy was TJ Perkins, and he was the wrestler who had been portraying our masked hero the whole time. But he'd been jumped backstage, and someone had stolen his outfit and the place in this title match. At this time there was something called Option C, where the holder of the title could trade the belt in for a shot at the world title. It turned out that Austin Aries...
Yeah, man, anybody could, like, be under that costume, bro. Christopher Daniels, Kazarian, Austin Aries, Homicide, TJP, all that, man. All those wrestlers.
The costume thief. Hogan felt sorry for TJ Perkins and gave him another match for the X Division title in a triple threat, but not before changing his name
to Manic.
Yeah.
To Manic.
Hogan can apparently just change wrestlers' names, and it was not explained why, but his new name would be Manic. Yeah, it was incredibly dumb, but TNA wanted to get the name off the program. Sabre won the match anyway, beating Aries, so it was a waste of time. Perkins also altered the outfit a bit. Soon he captured the X Division title and the character had another sort of career rebirth, before being kidnapped and brainwashed by James Storm in some sort of wacky cult. I don't know why he had to be so down in the dumps all the time. He was a manic depressive. TJP somehow got a couple of years out the Manic character, so you'd think that's where we can close the book on the Masked Mosquito. But no. In 2016, our masked Mauler shrunk in the wash as Jonathan Gresham portrayed the character on some TNA special shows that
Damn him too.
nobody watched. And I'm not trying to hate on Jonathan Gresham, but this was honestly the worst anybody has portrayed.
You could tell it's him, but just look at the bull sling.
Radar masked hero. He couldn't even be bothered to do the taunts. He walked weird, and he just used a completely different moveset. Then he was gone again, but we still can't close that book. In 2017, a wild Slapnuts appeared. He was trying to sell gold and global fast wrestling. He made a push to bring back the original masked man with the original masked name. He really liked the character for some reason. This time the man under the mask would be Caleb Conley. He would switch between himself and wrestling under the gimmick for the next few years. Conley left the promotion in 2022, and now we're just waiting for the character to reappear again portrayed by somebody different. Now that the company is TNA again, I can see him showing up in a matter of weeks to help the company feel more like the old TNA again. And honestly, I'd be on board with this, but can we please give the character a bit of development and not just have him be a random X Division wrestler? So the character had its moments, it was pretty memorable, but let me know in the comments what you thought of this guy. Was it really stupid, or did you enjoy it? But the character did come into the company with a lot of hype and promise, but quickly it evaporated, constantly disappearing from telly, a slightly uninteresting moveset, a lack of storylines, and nobody wanted to portray him, and other than chucking him in random X Division matches, TNA just didn't know what to do with him. Do you know what? It's funny, on reflection, the quality of the wrestlers who portrayed the Masked Man just seemed to get worse each time. Perhaps a reflection of the character losing its importance to TNA. So this was not like the video game story at all. Oh yeah, and his name was bad. Really bad.
Okay, that's the vid. So yeah, bro, let me know what y'all think about this character, you feel me? What was your favorite match of this character, you feel me? Like, of Manic. What was your favorite character? What was your favorite match of Manic? You feel me? Of the red, white, and blue character. You feel me? So yeah, bro, like, make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the vibes. We're just checking out you are.